Hey folks, welcome to another video. Today we're going to talk about the top newbie mistakes people make with the new Mavic Air. So stay tuned, we'll be right back. So hi there, we're going to talk about newbie mistakes that people make with the Mavic Air. It's going to save you some hassle, save you problems, and keep you from having issues with your copter itself. So first, I'm going to start with the basics of the remote, okay? When we're starting off, we always make sure the remote gets turned on first and turned off last. Don't ever want to have the copter on without the remote on so that it's giving it a good signal, because remember, loss of signal can institute or initiate a return to home sequence, not something that we want. So controller on first, copter on second. Second, make sure you're not in sport mode. If it's a Mavic Pro, make sure the switch on the side is not in sport mode. On the Mavic Air, it's here on top. Make sure it's not in sport mode. Don't want to take off in sport mode. We have the obstacle avoidance is disabled, and it's going to be a lot faster, and we want it to be under control when we're taking off and landing. So double check that. Next, always do a quick check and make sure your battery has a good charge. You definitely don't want to take off on a remote that doesn't have much of a charge left. So just tap the power button once, make sure that you have good battery charge on there. So let's move to the copter itself. A couple things that I want to go over to make sure you have the best experience possible on here is, unlike the Mavic Pro, the Mavic Air folds completely backwards from the Pro. On the Pro, you do the fronts first and the backs second. Well, on the Mavic Air, it's exactly opposite. So I want to turn out the legs and then pull out the front ones. Same with putting it away. I want to put the front ones in first, then the back ones, so that these legs come up underneath the props. What I've seen people do is actually try and force things, and you end up with extra pressure on the props, and if it sits in a bag for a while like that, you can actually distort your props. So make sure that you fold it properly every time to ensure that you're not going to have a problem with it. So, see, if I do it that way, it's going to hit that prop. I'm going to have to push things down, wedge it in there. You don't want to do it that way. So, backs first, then the fronts. Okay, next thing, make sure you lower the antennas. I have certainly seen videos online, people complaining that they're not getting the range they expect, and when they show a picture of the copter, the antennas are folded up. So always make sure those antennas are folded down for best possible range. Now before we turn it on, we absolutely want to make sure we remove the gimbal guard. If you power it up with the gimbal guard on, it's going to overload the gimbal and it could do some damage to those motors. So always take that gimbal guard off before you fly, or even before you turn it on. Next, we want to check the battery, make sure we have enough battery. Now, I never like taking off in a battery that I know hasn't been topped off. When this thing is not under load, it's going to show more available battery than there really is. Once I get this thing in the air, even though I can look at this and go, oh, I'm probably 80-90%, I could take off and all of a sudden I only have 60% battery. I'm out too far, I might not make it back. So make sure you only fly with topped off batteries. Next, we want to make sure that the battery is nice and secure. Now the design on here is really nice. It's a very solid click, and when it's not inserted properly, you should see red lines on the side of the battery. I'll see if I can show that. So there's red there, that means it's not clicked in. Push it in, those move up. Give it a little tug. Make sure that it's seated properly. We see this a lot with people on the Spark. They put the battery in, but they didn't check it to make sure, and it's in flight and the battery comes out. So make sure that you give a little tug on that to make sure that everything is good. Now, on the back, we have our USB port and our SD card slot. Make sure you have an SD card in it. Sounds reasonable. Now, the nice thing about the Mavic Air is it does have 8 gigs of internal storage. So if you completely forgot your SD card, you can switch over to the internal storage, still get a couple shots and some video. But 8 gigs, when you're shooting this in 4K, it's only going to last a couple minutes. So it's not an end-all, be-all. You're not going to get 15, 20 minutes worth of footage on an 8 gig card. You'll be lucky to get 7 or 8. So make sure that you put an SD card in there. What SD card to use? That question comes up all the time. People are putting 128 gig cards in these things so that they can fly and fly and fly and go all weekend or a whole week on vacation without having to worry about it. Not a good recommendation from our point of view. You're putting all your eggs in one basket. If you have your whole vacation footage on nothing but that SD card and you lose your copter, it goes down somewhere, you lose the SD card, someone steals it, you have lost everything. So a 16 gig card in here, you can actually fill up on one flight. So I prefer having a little extra room, so I run 32 gig cards in here, sometimes 64s if I just have that available, but a 32 gig card I think is perfect for the Mavic Air. I would rather have several 32s than one big 64 or 128 gig card, and it's always a good habit when you replace the battery, replace the card. That way you're never going to possibly lose more than one flight's worth of video. So again, we're going to go through our quick little pre-check out in the field. We're going to make sure that we are not in sport mode. We're going to power the remote up. We're going to get the antennas in the right position. Remember, not pointed at the aircraft. That's going to be the dead zone. We want them up so that the flat sides are facing the aircraft for the most possible range. Then we're going to turn the copter on. Now, here's where things can get a little funky. Once you get 8 satellites locked in, you should get a message saying that your return to home point has been set. I'm not ready to fly yet. If you have 8 satellites, you take off, and one of those goes over the horizon, now you're down to 7, you've just lost your home point position, and you risk having problems such as a flyaway. Now, I'll wait till I get those 8, it says that the home point is set, and then I wait. I'm not taking off until this thing is reporting that I have a minimum of 10 satellites. That way, if I lose 1 or 2 while I'm flying, no big deal. I have plenty. My home lock is going to stay good. I'm not going to have any issues whatsoever. So make sure you don't take off without those 10 satellites. So last thing is going to be the props. I have seen a lot of people come in and they have damaged props, but they're just looking for a battery or something. And I'm like, dude, you need to throw those props away. Oh, no, it flies great. No. 2 things to watch for them. First, as part of your pre-flight, always make sure that they're secure. You don't want them flying off. Second, any nick, any scratch, any damage to a prop at all, that prop goes in the trash. You do not want to have a prop failure in the air. This thing becomes a flying brick, which doesn't work well. So, first thing I do is I just run my fingers along the 2 edges. If I feel anything, any nick, any ding on there, that prop's going in the trash. They're cheap, they're easily replaceable. Make sure you have spares, but any damage that you see to a prop, it goes in the trash. Do not fly on a prop that has any damage at all. Now, 2 main reasons for that. One is, as I said, you might have a prop failure in the air if you have a stress fracture or something in there. But also, that's going to cause vibrations. If these props are not balanced well because one has weight taken out of it from a big nick in it, it's going to cause vibrations, which is going to transmit down to the gimbal and the camera, and what you'll get is you'll get that jello-y looking feel to your video. So you always want to make sure you're flying with good props. Now finally, little maintenance on here. Isn't much to do. Keep it clean. That's all there is to it. Keep it clean. Keep the dust out. Wipe it off once in a while. Use a little can of air to get all the extra dust out of it. And a good way of keeping it clean is to use a landing pad. Now, whether it's, a simple, cheap, inexpensive one, or a really nice one like the Hoodmans that have the weighted ring so that even in the strongest wind, they're not going to blow away. I do recommend using a landing pad. It's going to keep the dust and the dirt away, so when you take off, you're not blowing all that dust up into the machine, possibly getting a rock chip to chip a prop. So it's a good safety measure, good way of keeping your bird intact is to use a good landing pad. So that's it for today. That's all my tips on how to avoid newbie mistakes with the Mavic Air. I hope you're enjoying your machine. Hope you're getting some good footage. Be sure and tag us at either DJI Colorado or Multicopter Warehouse so we can see what types of footage you're getting. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions for future videos, put them in the comments so that we know what kind of videos you're looking for. If you like this type of video, make sure you click on that like button and share it with your friends so that they can learn all the same tips that you are. Click on subscribe. Make sure that you're part of our team that can see all the different videos whenever we do them. And click on that bell icon, which will notify you the moment we put out a new video. This has been Kerry. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.